All right, welcome to another Sunday live stream. I've got the dramatic light going today, mostly because I want to change it up a little bit. Um, we've been talking about all kinds of stuff. If you got the text message, which by the way we've got pinned to the top there, or you can find it in video comment links and stuff like that. But you get notified an hour early. We come, we hang out, we chat, we talk about cryptocurrency, phosphates. What else we've been talking about? Cookware, fish, duckweed, all the things. All the things go pretty much during the preamble 1 hour hangout session. So, let's see here. I found a question. Siche. Every time I finish cleaning the Siche canister filter, it struggles for like the next half an hour to get it running. What I would check in that scenario is if you can, buy some silicone grease and grease up the big O-ring that goes like the main seating part. Grease that up. Check all of your connections. You can have tiny little air leaks in there that can suck in some air and make it struggle for a while. Typically, the longer it runs, it'll kind of shut those off. The other thing is filling your canister as high as you can with water before you kind of push the head down. That's the head unit. You might get a little water that comes out, but there's less air in there, which leads to less hydro-locking, basically, and more likely to just run the way you want it to. Yes, we were also talking about using routers and acrylic and watch your thumbs, things like that. So, anything... I shouldn't say anything goes because we don't talk religion, politics, that kind of stuff, but, it's not only just fish chat, and, today we're going to talk about kind of community aquariums. Really enjoying what I've got going on back here. I've got some Bolivian rams I've added. And, so where this really started for me was, I'll get to some questions you guys had that wanted to be talked about during the stream here. But where this really started for me was I was setting up aquariums this week a little bit, and you might have seen that on my personal Facebook or the Facebook group or the forum. And what I was trying to do, and I made some videos this week as well, which I have to do, but I was trying to look up research, and it's getting hard. Without getting into it too much, kind of the way Google's working and AI and that kind of stuff is having its own effect. But this was happening a year ago, 2 years ago, before kind of AI even invaded that space. And the problem is finding the information I want is becoming increasingly difficult. And just wanting... So like the things that what does Corey look up? Maybe I should start there. I wanted to see what are all the options on the planet to fight planaria. So there's little traps, there's no planaria the medicine type of stuff, and then there's gotta be fish out there that eat these things. Otherwise, they would be taking over the planet, and they would just be like, yeah, I went into a body of water, and there was no water, I just walked across planaria, right? And all I can find is stuff from like 2002 to 2012, on like Planet Tank forums, and then I can find a chunk of stuff in the last 5 years on Reddit. And everything there was basically, yeah, maybe things do things, don't know, try things, no planaria will do it. And so that's not a great answer because I know something out there has to be eating this. And then I stumbled upon someone going, hey, I think assassin snails are eating it a little bit. And then I stumbled upon someone else that was breeding or making blackworm cultures and stuff like that. And they were having planaria problems. And then they added assassin snails to it. And they no longer had planaria. But they never kind of followed up to like actually, prove that it was actually working. So that was one instance. Another instance was I wanted to see, are there studies out there, and who's been doing them, about light intensity versus aquarium plant growth, especially now that we're in the LED world. I can find them for older lights back when we were kind of really trying to figure out how to do planet aquariums, but I am not really seeing much anymore when it comes to LED lights and aquarium plants. And there's little anecdotes in here and there, but I've got a whole video coming out about it, and basically the TLDR of it is I think we're using way too much light on our aquariums, and you'll have to watch the video on why, and you'll get to look at a bunch of my aquariums and see what kind of par levels they are. And basically it's a video that justifies a $600 par meter, but I'm learning a lot, and hopefully trying to bring you guys along for that learning as well. And so, yeah, as I'm kind of researching and trying to do things, I'm trying to use the forum, for instance. Another example where I was trying to get some critical thinking going and maybe learn something over the next 10 years. Do we know if Java Fern prefers rock, gravel, wood? I feel like in my aquariums over the years, as I use it, I find it does better on wood or rock than on like a plastic decoration. Sometimes it does better in the gravel, but not all the time. It does worse in sand for me, but the overall thing of how can we sell, just us as a company, not even the whole industry, we sell thousands and thousands and thousands of pots of Java Fern every year. And we've been doing that for 10 years basically. And how are we basically no smarter? I feel like collectively every year we do a bunch of things as hobbyists, and we're not really learning much. Individually we are, but as a hobby. And I feel like it feels this way, and I don't know if it's true, but it feels like we were learning more when we were back in print media, forums, things like that, where you basically had to take your idea and put it somewhere, and then it would be indexed by Google. It would be, it would be just, I guess, searchable, where so much of what's done right now is not searchable. So if I make a video, most of it's not searchable. If I make a post on Facebook group, not searchable really. Like you can get in there and search, but it won't be from a bigger point. So WebMD is now offering info on fish keeping. I haven't looked at that, but that would be a good use case of it's a searchable index. And so what I think is when I'm looking for info, I end up seeing, wow, what I'm into was done 10, 15, 20 years ago, and nobody's carrying the torch on with this thing. And what I'm seeing is we didn't get to the end of the rainbow and like, oh, we know all about it. It just, however we were documenting, just stopped. And then I think people are still doing things. It's just we lost the trail, right? And so I'm making a more conscious effort to utilize our forum. This comes from someone that I do love using Discord for other things. I do love Reddit. I do love Facebook groups. Each thing has its own, like, hey, I like that about that. But pretty much all of them universally don't have the archive, the look back, the thing that I want. And so that's what I'm worried about, is if you take millions and millions or billions of users that would have been making their own GeoCities website, that would have been on a forum somewhere, that would have been in an email list or any of those types of things, and now they're primarily using communication form that won't be documented somewhere. And so we're going to lose out on a lot of that stuff. And so I'm really wondering, like, man, is this the wave of the future? And what can I do to try and do to steward the thing that I want? Nico Fish says, I tried the Care Forum, but the message board format has never really caught on for me. I prefer the Facebook group. I 100% agree. I like that I can open up my phone to scroll and consume, right? But what I don't like is nothing on Facebook, essentially, lives more than 36 hours. Nothing on YouTube, I shouldn't say nothing. Most things on YouTube don't live past 28 days, maybe 7 days on a lot of stuff. And so knowing that that's the way social media is going, I feel like if I really want to try and improve the hobby, which has always been one of my main goals, outside of just me trying to improve products, is getting more information. Like another example of me looking for information, I decided I want to get back into libraries more than I already am, which is absurd. But I can't find any forums. I can't find any of the places like guppies.com where I would have hung out 10, 15 years ago. It doesn't exist, right? And now when I get into it on Facebook, like, yeah, there's 176 different library groups, and 80% of them are just advertising random crap, like not even fish related stuff. And then there's some groups that are kind of okay, and there's like one or two that are like, hey, this is pretty decent, and I'll stay in here. And I feel like for something that is so popular, why don't we have a better home base? And same for community aquariums. Like, and how all this relates to community aquariums, by the way, is that, in my opinion, in the last 5 years, basically nobody knows any more about compatibility than they did 5 years ago. So what I mean by that is, where would you go if someone did an experiment and it's like, for instance, how well do rosy barbs and gold barbs get along? If I was to Google that, it's going to be a forum from a long time ago, and it'll be hit or miss information. You also could find some calculators, and they're just going to say, yeah, for 150 gallons, put 1.5 neon tetras, don't go overboard. That's hyperbole, but for the most part, they're only as smart as we can train them, and if we aren't documenting what we do, we're not actually training anything. And so, like, the biggest question I have is, in my 20 years in the hobby, in the last, like, I'm going to call it 6 years, rosy barbs have become my number one algae eating fish. By far, amazing. Love the way it looks. Got it right there. Look at it every day. And before that, didn't even exist to me, basically. Like, I knew what they were. I was never going to keep them. And so now I wonder, like, wow, what if like a gold barb also ate algae like that and just nobody really knows? Because when you Google it, if you Google rosy barbs eating hair algae and you take away aquarium co-op results, there are very few. There's not that many. For something that, like, in theory, that's sold in every Petco, PetSmart type of environment, and they've been around forever. They don't even have to be heated. They're super easy to breed. They look amazing. They come in long fin and normal fin. They come in a neon version and normal version. Males and females look different. Like, they've got like everything awesome about them. And yet, kind of this giant mystery. So, yeah, I'm definitely, oh, and I say another good information source is local clubs, by the way, and local stores. But I think what I'm missing is that knowledge expanding out of that little microcosm, right? So if you've got, we bring in speakers every month. You guys saw Joe Cutler yesterday, and his club might know everything that Joe's doing, but what about the other clubs? What about the people that aren't in clubs? What about, we're not really getting that information out there. Someone, Jacob says, sponsor a column in Amazonas. That is a way, but I think you guys would be shocked at the distribution of Amazonas, where it's like, oh, you guys only sell 2,000 copies worldwide? Like, when you look at the hobby in general, like, oh, but a good fish video can get a few million views. That's the good and the bad of social media. Like, what's worth more? If I have a video that gets a few million views, I make thousands of dollars, or I make a really, really, really good blog post or a really good forum post that gets 10,000 views over the next 10 years, but those 10,000 people might actually use it and put it into practice. So one rewards me financially, one rewards the actual hobby. It's kind of a weird thing. And that's just for me. Everybody, we've got 400 plus people in the chat at the moment. Numbers are going up. 10% of you probably could write articles or posts or just share information that would benefit others in a meaningful way throughout your hobby. And if you amplify that through all of these channels, it would have a huge, massive effect. So, thank you for those who are gifting the memberships. That JOK1414 donated 5. And as Candy was saying, check out all the talks if you haven't already. I looked the other day and there's over like 40 of them now. So 40 hour to hour and a half long talks specializing on stuff. You get discount on the website. There's other benefits and things like that too. Time to sleep. We'll be watching tomorrow. Your live streams make Mondays great. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Thanks for being a member, Ian. And yeah, it's different times, different spots in the world. I want to know why I'm struggling so bad with Java moss. I don't really have issues keeping most other plants. I dose Easy Green regularly also. These questions I always like, post on the forum or social media and we can help a little more. Just because a picture says 1,000 words. My current jam that I'm on, I would wager you have too much light. I don't know how much light you have, but it's too much. And other plants usually respond better. Java moss and Sesquitercitang and some other plants, they actually grow faster and better with lower light. And it's not necessarily that they don't like light. It's that usually if you have really bright light, your other plants will take advantage of it tenfold, right? So, for instance, if you put out money on a table, right, and there's 10 people in the room, and you say, everyone's allowed to grab $1. One person can sprint and grab it, one person can crawl and grab it, one person can grab it an hour from now. At the end of the day, they all got $1, right? So everybody got their nutrients in your aquarium. Your plants are happy. That's what we would love. But if instead we change the conversation to, all right, there's $10 on the table. Whoever grabs them, grabs them. Because that's really what's going on in your aquarium. There's 10 nutrients. Whoever grabs them, grabs them. Well, unfortunately, your Java moss is the one that's going to crawl across the room to try and get its $1. And you've got maybe stem plants and other things that will really race over there and like, okay, that one got 4, that one got 2, that one got 3, that one got 2. Oh, and there's literally none left for the Java moss. And that's where you'll get some of those slower growers really struggling. And so, yeah, light is kind of setting the pace. So your light is the thing you can control. Is it let everybody race and get as fast as they can? Limit everybody. Everybody's got to share. What are you doing? The light is the main driving factor. And there's actually well-documented posts. I was reading about this because I was just going, what are other people thinking about it? Tom Barr, we've had him speak for the club. And on the Barr Report, a forum that I do check out from time to time because it's one of the few ones that are still alive. And he makes a really valid point in that the most controllable and constant thing in your aquarium when it comes to plants is lighting. You can kind of misdose fertilizer. You can have a mix of plants that need different fertilizers. You can put aquarium food in that will maybe have lots of nitrates or phosphates, like someone was saying earlier in the chat. Those are all variable in some degree, right? And CO2 can also be variable. How many fish? How long are the lights on? Do you have an air stone? Don't you? How big is the aquarium versus the bubbles per second? But when it comes to light is one of the most easy things, especially when coupled with a timer. If I set it to 8 hours today, it will be 8 hours tomorrow. And it will be within milliseconds of turning on and off at the same time every day. And so you can easily grab your phone and go, let's try 7 hours. Go for 3 or 4 weeks. Let's try 11 hours. Go for 3 or 4 weeks. Let's try a siesta where we take a break in the middle of the day and build up some CO2. You can try all of those things, and it will be pinpoint accuracy, basically, where let's try dosing a little more. Let's try dosing a little less. Try feeding a little more. Let's try feeding a little less. Should I add plants? Shouldn't I? Should I trim them? Shouldn't I? Should I add more fish? Shouldn't I? All of those. That's real hard. But when you can at least go, hey, I have this size aquarium with this par. That's why I have a par meter is awesome because you can actually measure the light. That becomes a thing that you now can write down and hold on to and go, hey, I have this thing. Much like you can measure nitrates and go, hey, I have this thing. But I'm kind of getting into the video I make. So many of us were buying lights, and it's like, well, what do you know about the light? Costs $66. That's what I know. Or someone else said it was good. That's what I know. Or whatever, right? And that's unfortunately the wrong thing to know about it. I've designed and sold 3D printed aquarium products for the last 3 years. Should I be looking into eventually moving my products into injection molding? I would say probably the biggest thing to look at is how many are you selling now? Could you sell more if you could produce more? And how much will you actually save? And you probably won't know all of those answers until you start digging in, but let's imagine that, I don't know, let's say this is a miniature scale here. Let's say you were printing this hood, injection molding it now. And you go, okay, well, a cargo container of these or a pallet of these, let's say it's a pallet of these. Okay, a pallet of these is $800 to $1,000 in shipping just to get it from wherever you had them injection molded to you. And then maybe you're going, yeah, but each one of these is 6 cents, right? So assuming they do it right, and you get through all the prototypes, and that costs a lot of money with shipping, and then you spend $800 to $1,000 on a pallet of these for the shipping, and then each unit itself, maybe you got $600 in the actual unit, right? And we assume the plastic's right, and there's no cracking and all of that. But when you go like, okay, that is, let's say if they were 6 cents each, right? And it's hundreds of dollars, so maybe you got like, I don't know, 5,000 of these things. When you start doing the math, you might go, well, it costs me 32 cents to print one of these between electricity and materials, right? But if I have them injection molded, landed cost, and I got to store them, a pallet of these at my house, and that's just one little part, maybe landed cost is 14 cents, right? So you're going, wow, I save over half. But let's say you want to improve the product. You can't because you're sitting on a pallet of them. Let's say there's something wrong. Oof, that's brutal. Let's say you don't have the buyers. Oh, well, you've already sunk costs. You've already done it. So really, you got to have the demand for it to be there and really be sure you don't want to make any changes. And I don't know the 3D printing, right? So you could be like, well, I'm way behind in production, or it costs way more, or whatever. I do think it would be a better product probably, but those are the questions you need to ask at scale. Does this make sense? And there's plenty of products that will never make sense at scale, and that's okay, right? Learning even how to do it will be a valuable skill set, right? So, my very suspect scale, yes, this is for weighing medications. At some point, I will release the video or whatever that uses this. It has to do with Maricin and Paraclens. And remember I was showing you the ICX doser thingy, and then this one? It's all part of the same project I'm working on for work. So, yeah. I had to buy a scale that could do milligrams so that I could get very precise gram to see volume differences. Because right now, basically everybody uses the same scoop for Paraclens and Maricin, but they're slightly different densities, and you're supposed to use 1 gram of weight per each of them. So, wanting to dial in the amount of meds that go into tanks, especially as we're getting closer to expansion, you're adding more tank sizes, and want to be as precise as possible. Make it easy. Yeah, there's a 3D printing, finishing, and post-processing and setup that takes time as well. Definitely. And there's also the, hey, I ordered, like, real talk, I've got nearly $500,000 worth of stuff sitting in the water for weeks on end. So, like, the capital outlay, right? So even though we've paid for it, it's been produced, it's on the water, or one of the containers has been sitting at the port in LA for 6 weeks at this point, right? There's always extra stuff. And even when you have something injection molded, you still have to put that thing together, right? Unless you're paying them to manufacture the whole thing. And then you get into product packaging, and there's always, the rabbit hole's never ending, right? You can go way down. And all I can say, and I'm not trying to scare people off, is like, there's a high learning curve. You know, like, oh, I thought 1/8 tolerance would be good enough. Like, no, it needs to be 1/64 tolerance. But you have a pallet of them that won't work now. Oops. And then like, okay, well, I got a prototype. Great example. We had aquariums made for the warehouse. To spec, they were perfect. The only problem is they didn't hold water because we didn't tell them they had to hold water, even though we had them made by an aquarium manufacturer. So, like, oh, you know, there could be a very, very high learning curve. You could have a whole, like, luckily, we paid the $400 to ship one aquarium from the manufacturer to us so we could test it. But if you just go, hey, you know what, just send it. We end up ordering a whole container full of them. If we had just sent a container full of them and went by pictures, we would have a container of aquariums that won't hold water. So there can be a very high learning curve. But at scale, and again, it's that's the important part. At scale, you can save lots of money and time if you've got everything dialed in. If you don't have dialed in, you can also waste a lot of time and money real quick. You're basically doing everything in massive amounts at that point. Yeah. Oh, you need this aquarium to hold water. Yeah, that might be why we did it. Answering the retail store. Let's see here. Any deals or sister shops happening at Aquashella Daytona for the Aquarium Co-op members? Not that I'm aware of yet, but I could just be out of the loop. I don't really deal with the RPP stores a lot. So for all I know, they're gearing up and they're going to be there, and I just don't know about it yet. Let's see here. Yeah, I want to show a new feature that we rolled out so far this week. If we go to the website, we now, if you're local, we have a fish list for you. We are going to update it, well, attempt to. We will attempt to update it every week, and you can see here it has a date on it, which is nice, and then you can scroll through, and we're not going for exact numbers. So basically, if we have more than 20, it's many. If we have fewer than 20, it's few. And, you know, it's best guess. Like albino bristlenose, we were saying less than 20, but I guarantee if you tore down that story, you'd be like, actually, there's 96 of these things. They're everywhere. Most bristlenose are that way. But then there's some things like a flagtail prochylotus, we're never going to have more than 20. And then there's like neon tetras, like, oh, we have 600 in stock at the moment. So, but for the most part, you can search this list and look for new things and, you know, like, oh, they got short body platinum koi. They're super cool. But we only brought in, I think, 12 of them to begin with. And I think we're down to 6 or 8 of them. So they've been selling. No prices, because prices change almost every week when we order new ones. And then keep in mind, if you're local and it goes, hey, it said you had many of these and I came in and then you were out. Realize there's always someone crazier than you shopping. There are people that will walk in and be like, yeah, I need 300 neon tetras. Like, whoa, okay. You know, and then someone else the same day, like, wait, you want 100? Like, we just sold 400 in one day. Meanwhile, you're coming in 5 days after. So just know, while unlikely, that can always happen. Or you could arrive and maybe they got sick and we put them into quarantine, or, you know, there could be reasons. But this is all stuff that's actually out on the floor for sale and not in the quarantine area or in the expansion area yet. So this stock list will get much bigger once that actually opens. And then I thought I would, while I'm here, I'd show you guys the forum. You can just click on it from the the education thing here, go to forum, and you can see, like, as far as forums go, being that they're archaic, ours is pretty active. You can hop on forums, you're like, oh, last post was 9 months ago, where ours are, you can see minutes ago, right? 11 minutes ago, and you can see people in the chat like Chicken in of the Sea, right? And you can see we're doing stuff for retail here. Great spot if you need retail only type stuff because you're local. And then even I've started up a new journal where you can see right here one of my tanks that I'm working on. You can see here day 1. You can see here day 2, waiting on plants to show up, and all of that. So yeah, check out the forum if you want to help try to do some archival information. Let's see here. Yes, I wasn't reading the chat. The goal of that list is to make it easy. Everybody wants to make it more difficult, and I'm going to tell you right now, we're just not going to do it. Not doing scientific names, not doing exact counts. We're not doing update daily. We're not doing. Only because I know it's not impossible, but I don't want to spend thousands of dollars a month on it to update things. Is the Marina air pump a new product? Not by Marina. It's been out for a long time. We are selling it because we've been sold out of air pumps forever. And even though we buy a lot, we've been sitting out of stock because they're stuck in LA. So we brought in some air pumps just to sell them. And we'll keep selling them even when our air pumps are back. But while we're continually working on our air pumps, they get better over time, which is good. They last longer on the batteries and everything. And we are waiting on more prototypes for stronger air pumps that don't use batteries, that will hopefully, the goal would be come down in price a bit, not have the battery, easier to ship, and it changes the focus, right? So a battery powered air pump, the focus is how long can they run on a battery? Well, you got to limit the amount of energy you use to pull that off. Where if you don't have a battery, now it could be, well, how quiet and how much air could we pump through it? Different goal, right? Both super useful depending on who's buying them, right? If you've been in Florida or hurricane, tornado, alley these past few months, like, you definitely want battery backups. If you're kind of living maybe in the Northwest, well, even power's been flickering all day today, but depending on your use case, is what type of air pump makes the most sense for what you're trying to do. So, Whips World just got a free membership from Chicken of the Sea. Nice. All right. Let's see. Does Aquashella come to Phoenix? Not that I know of. In past discussions I've had with them, there's been talks of moving it around more, but I haven't had any talks with them in probably a year or so. Basically, once we started moving the moving the warehouse, I have just been laser focused on business. I do have some updates, though. That reminds me. First, Candy with 5 memberships. Thank you. So remember when everyone's like, oh, this guy, Corey, he was in anchors that aren't seismically sound, probably just bought them at the Home Depot. And I'm just doing funny voices, like no one's really calling me out that hard on that. But by the way, Seismic Architects followed up. They said, your anchors will work just great. They're fine. Use those. Gotcha. Ha! We overbuild everything. And so that's why we were doing the whole like, really you want us to go in and put in inferior fasteners? Really? And then once they finally were like, fine, even though we let the person go that originally did this, I'll take a look. They do that, and then they're like, oh yeah, here's your letter. That'll work just fine. Like, thank you. Thank you. Now, unfortunately, we're still waiting on one thing, and that is expanding our fire alarm system. I finally got someone to email me back. And then I made them a video of it and provided them the architect building plans, and it has been radio silent since then. So that's been awesome. I followed up twice going, hey, Just checking. Did you get that email? Hey, it's Friday. We'd love to get started on this next week. Radio silence. So maybe I start another Monday by calling up more fire companies that will say, hey, yeah, we don't do that. Or, hey, because you call them up and they're like, yeah, you're not Boeing. You don't want 72,000 things installed. Yeah, we don't do that. Then you call the next people. Oh, you want more than just a fire extinguisher? Yeah, we don't do anything more than that. Then you call the next one. Yeah, we're booked out forever. Okay, do you have any No, okay. Call the next one. Nothing. Call the next one. Nothing. Hit up Yelp. I'm so desperate I hit up Yelp going, yes, shop it out to everybody. And I keep getting emails back like, oh, we only do security. Oh, we only do networking. Oh, we only do this. Like, there has to be someone local that does this thing, and I just got to get them to like, let's move forward, please. I don't even know how much this costs yet. I have no idea. Can't even get to that process yet. I've got a video though, and we've got building plans. Really looking to start that conversation with somebody. Leslie Perry coming in with 5 more. I want to say subs for some reason. I don't know why. Memberships, and then Max also coming in with 5 memberships. Load up, everybody. Let's see here. Planted Goldie says, I got to tell you, I was mad disappointed when my local fish store had co-op brine shrimp at almost double the price. I guess it's online for me. Yeah. You could definitely send us a message if you want, Planted Goldies, and we can take a look. We've had this happen a couple times lately, and every time we've looked into it, they're not actually an RPP store. So do know that. Sometimes that happens where other stores will buy at us from full retail, then they will basically double the price, and then we get flack for it. It's like, whoa, they're not even in the program. Now, they might be. Brine shrimp's not a great product. It doesn't have a lot of room for margin, so they might be going, ooh, we got to make more money for this to make sense. I could hear that. But also, with you providing that feedback, we can, have a conversation with them. Our team will go, hey, just so you're aware, we've gotten some feedback that being double the online price, they're not going to buy it from you. And yeah, we can look into it because maybe it is another one of those. And because, the last one was like, yeah, my local RPP store, like you were literally in someone's garage trying to buy this. This is not an RPP store. They have to have a normal physical retail location in good standing with good reviews, all of that, which my guess is they probably do have that, but we always want to confirm. I get caught out quite often now, like, hey, they're doing a thing. Like, wait a second. They're not even an RPP store. So we will, and half the time it could be a pricing mistake, could be they didn't know any better, they didn't think, whatever, right? First thing is have a conversation with people. Go, hey, are you aware this is going on? And they could be like, yes, and here's why, and maybe there's something we can do. I don't know, so we can look into it. But in my thought, it's like, well, it's in their best interest to make it affordable. Like, truth be told, we don't make much money on brine shrimp at all. Like, it is not a good money-making product for us. We supply it out of wanting people to have access to it, supplying local breeders that supply us fish, and sometimes maybe you got to reframe the conversation of like, the people that are buying brine shrimp locally are probably breeding fish. If they walk into your door and they buy that brine shrimp from you, start the conversation with, what do you need brine shrimp for? Oh, you're breeding these? I'd love to buy those from you. And now all of a sudden you're going, oh, that's where you make the money on brine shrimp. It's from the people breeding the fish. So sometimes just got to frame it like that. Like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. Might be a match made in heaven. Do I still use Teespring? I have a Murphy shirt that I got from you there. I haven't looked at Teespring in a long time. Could be one of those every once in a while I do that. I'm like, oh, we got $100 over there. See if I can log in if there's anything still buyable from there. For all I know, they've like terminated my account, like too inactive or something. Let's see. Is my password saved? Oh yeah. Do we have? Let's see. Analytics, is it just 0? Looking real 0. At least in the last month. Let's look at the last. Oh, it only does 7 days. So. Let's see, stores. Okay. Do I have anything? View store? Are you gonna let me view it? Okay, we do have some things. I'll put it up there. You can technically buy this stuff, which is print by demand, by the way, not my favorite, but it is a way to get some stuff around the world. You can even get the Murphy leggings. And who doesn't need Murphy leggings? I mean, come on. So let me put that in there. Let's see. Anything else on there that's cool? I think there was a mug that you couldn't get elsewhere. Some baby clothing, some tees, some hoodies. Oh yeah, the cooperatives. I forgot about them. The cooperatives are super neat. The member-only kind of cooperative shirt, the super nerd. So, let's see. How do you get your neon retail partner sign for the window? You get those by spending enough, basically. We basically have a rewards program for stores that, based on the amount they order, they trigger different things. And so some of them would be like shirts and signs, and you'll be seeing a lot of shelf talkers going up lately. We're sending those out for free for everybody, basically. Well, not everybody. Everyone that places an order, it's supposed to go on their next order. So you'll see some more messaging on their branding. But we basically are building out a program because I know when I am a store, but like I remember to get an Aquarium sign, you had to buy in one shot $3,000 worth of aquariums. I never got that sign. I bought it from a store that went out of business, which I find comical, going, it's a bad idea to buy Aquarium tanks $3,000 at a time when they go $1 a gallon all the time. And so I thought it was kind of bittersweet of like, yeah, that's how I got my sign. I got my Aquarium sign by buying a store that went out of business because they did decisions like buying aquariums $3,000 at a time, knowing that they're getting undersold at a Petco and PetSmart all day long. So they need a Pacific Northwest Aquashella. They kind of have one. They haven't done it in a little while, but it's called ReefWorks. I think they call it ReefWorks / Fresh Fest. It was happening before COVID. Then COVID scrambled everything up. There's been talk of it coming back, but I don't see any dates currently. So maybe not. Let's see here. Aquashella is in Chicago and Dallas because one of the owners from Chicago, one's from Dallas. Aquashella is in Daytona because I don't know. Well, there's a lot of fish industry in Florida, and part of the problem is you could have all the fans in the world at a state, pick Ohio or something, or a good example is like Las Vegas. Oh, we could fly in there. The problem is you don't have a very good event if you don't have any vendors, right? And so you got to get all the vendors there. And if you pick a state where there's not enough vendors, you don't have a very good show. And so I do think there is room for growth in all of these markets, and like, why not California and this and that? And you get into like laws and you know, just all that kind of stuff. So it's not the easiest thing to run these shows from what I could see. So yeah, more would be better. That'd be good. But also I've seen shows not make money and lose money, and like Aquatic Experience used to happen as the Family Pet Expo in Washington. Lost money 3 years in a row. No longer happens in Washington for the last like 10 years. So, you know, these things gotta make money. So when one shows up in your area, support it, right? Go to that Killifish Club. Go to that Keystone Clash. Go to that thing if it's local to you. What would I say my favorite Episto is and why? Candy's the best. And we still need dog coins, right, Katie? I really think that Super Red Cockatoides are the best. They're very common as far as Epistos go, and so they get a lot of hate of like, well, I wouldn't choose that one. But they're amazing and they're easy to breed. Whereas like, I like quirkier ones too. You'll see in a video I've got a Pistogram Barlowi. It's a mouth-brooding Episto. Not super flashy, anything like that. So, yeah. Las Vegas has one of the weakest aquarium scenes I've been to. I mean, there more and more stuff's opening there. You know, you could have made the same argument to a lot of states pre-COVID, like, oh, no one lives there. 5 years later, everybody lives there. Okay, So things can blow up real quick. A local fish store near Aquarium Co-op tried to tell me their tanks use thicker glass. Was still a standard Aquarium tank. I don't know anything about that. It doesn't make sense to me, but I can say this. As a scrappy fish store owner, as I've always been, I was buying Petco tanks. I was buying so many of them from Petco. Eventually, I got the semi-truck. It just came straight to Aquarium Co-op when we unloaded them there. So instead of me rating them every day they got fulfilled, like I would, basically what I would do, I learned the fulfillment days of when they would get their orders. They get their orders from the same wholesalers I buy from. I would take my van and I would clean them out of all the sizes I wanted for like 3 or 4 states. Or not states, cities. And after a couple weeks of that, they go, I finally got one manager. I was like, I'm going to keep doing this. Or how about you let me order what I want? And they're like, oh, that sounds great. And I was like, great. I want 30 of these. I want 50 of these. I want 20 of those. And then they just brought the semi-truck to me. And it literally had the packing invoices from my wholesalers in it. So that's how I know. So unless they've got some super secret squirrel sauce that I don't know about, where they're like, oh, you got to order this thing to get thicker glass, I'm not privy to that. So doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means I'm not privy to it. Let's see. Why have SIPs become so rare in the hobby? Because African cichlids are dying off. As in, no one cares about African cichlids anymore. You talk to all the greats, you talk to the stores, pretty much everyone unanimously will go, yeah, African cichlids not so hot anymore. They're still amazing fish. They're still great, but Cyprichromis were already rare even when cichlids were hot. So if they're not the hot commodity right now, they're even more rare. Like, don't get me wrong, I got them in my fish room. They're right over there. I love them. They're just not popular enough. People want Mabuna. They want that big color. They want that cheap fish. They want it to be hardy. And Cyprichromis don't do all of that. Now, perfect community tanks. I run my Cyprichromis in communities. My favorite tank is to breed cherry shrimp with them. And you can also have them with other cichlids. You can have them with other tetras and all of that. And I believe they are actually one of the best fish you could possibly keep if you have really hard water and community tanks. They don't damage plants at all. But like a lot of things that I've done, they're not documented well. So people, like, I love mixing rainbow fish with African cichlids, and I have great results. I love mixing silver dollars and big body tetras and other things. It calms them way down. But that's not common knowledge, and it doesn't always work, but nothing with African cichlids always works, right? And so I think community aquariums can be documented a lot more, and to its point, I really think we've got tons of people keeping fish, and none of that wisdom that is gained is being passed on. Or not, I shouldn't say none. A lot of it's not being passed on because it gets put into social media and 36 hours it's gone. It's down the feed, nowhere to be found ever again, basically. Do I anything special to an acrylic tank when you're putting it on 2x4s and cinder blocks? Mostly no. In a perfect world, you'd want 3/4 inch plywood. If you look at my old fish room videos where I was using acrylic tanks, just all I did was I upsized from 2x4s to like 2x8s. And there were still gaps though. I've seen wholesalers with huge gaps and have bowing in the acrylic. Never failed on them that I saw. But for the most part, acrylic tanks are meant to be supported the whole way through the bottom, where glass tanks are meant to be supported along the rims. And so, do that with what you will. But you can look at what I've done. I haven't had problems, but officially do it the correct way. Because if you do it, Corey said you could put it on two pieces of dental floss, and then it broke. You do the best you can. That's whenever you're doing anything, just do the best you can. You get better results. Yeah, Corey, you'd know their store if I dropped the name, but I won't. It was a sales tactic. I know. I mean, I don't know the store, but yes, I try very hard to like, just let the stuff sell the stuff. I try to be real honest. When I still tell people, go to Petco, go buy that tank. Come back to me, buy the top. I'll sell you a top that'll fit it. I'll sell you better equipment. I'll sell you healthy fish. But we do carry aquariums, and they are way more expensive. Like the Aquarium aquariums we sell are way more expensive than a Petco or a PetSmart. It's out of a convenience that we would carry them. Because some people are like, well, I'd rather support you, and blah, 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 and all that, and I gotta get that. But if you're coming to me like, hey, I'm trying to save some money, like, great. Go buy your aquarium there, and then I can save you money on like all the rest of stuff, right? We all specialize in different stuff. And same thing, if you're really into African cichlids, I'll send you to a different store. I don't have that in my store. And I think that's a better way to try and sell, honestly, is like, what are you good at? Great, do more of that. Instead of, oh, these products are the same. Like when you hear me talk about my dechlorinator, right? Do I sit here and I tell you how easy dechlorinator is better than everybody? Not really. I go, all this crap's the same. But if you want to support me, buy Easy Dechlorinator. It also is really good, like dechlorination to penny ratio, but there's always going to be someone that can beat it. Like, hey, I got a guy that sells the crystals that'll dechlorinate out of the back of a dumpster, and it'll get you 6 pounds for $9. Like, yeah, that guy exists, right? But there's opportunity cost of like you're buying the crystals out of the back of a dumpster in an alleyway at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? Some people want to go, I clicked a button and it got shipped to me. So, yeah. I don't see the constant turnover of content getting any better. So how you preserve good information on these platforms? Every platform has a way to do it, but nobody's doing it. Like on Facebook, you'd have to like turn it into an article, and same with like Reddit, you turn it into an article, and on Discord, right, you would pin it, and then people would have to know, oh, you go to the pin, but then there's 30 things in the pin. You could search it, but it's also pinned in this channel. They're all afterthoughts. And what I've been thinking, I spun up the conversation with Zenzo today is, if one of our core principles is making the hobby better, and I believe information is important to that, we should reevaluate how are we getting the information out there and what is sustainable long term. And I believe forums are going to be that, because YouTube was way different 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We, in my opinion, and people will disagree with this, but a video that would get 100, 200, 300,000 videos that we would do now might only get 40,000. An unboxing video that get 40,000 might only get 10,000. Shorts, unfortunately, you guys are probably going, hey, why are you putting out so many shorts? Oh, because it's no work to get lots of views. That's why. It does not relay information well. It does not do a bunch of things well, but everybody is in a race to the bottom with short form content. That race, we hit the bottom, ka-dunk, and now every platform's going, hey, that don't do anything. Let's make them longer. And so now even YouTube is like, oh, shorts, as of the 15th of this month, they're actually 3 minutes now. And on Instagram and TikTok, they're up to 30 minutes, right? And so we literally hit the bottom and ka-dunk, and now we're coming back up. And so the meta, mark my words, the meta's going to be 30-minute vertical videos in the next 18 months. That's just where we're going, because advertisers don't want super short content. Like me as an advertiser, I don't want to put my content next to content that doesn't make us look good, right? And if you're just sitting there doom scrolling looking for laughter, you're not looking to buy. But if you're into a 25-minute tour of a fish farm, you're probably more in the mode to buy some aquarium co-op stuff when you're done with that, right? And so that's where we are. And so I think, and I haven't been down the rabbit hole yet, so there's lots of thinking to do on this, but some of the best things we can do is take control of our information, right? I can't control any of the Facebook social media algorithms. I can't control any of that. So much so that we have problems literally when we publish, people aren't getting the notifications, right? Nothing we can really do about that. So part of it is, let's start offering text. It's pinned in the comments right now. In the chat. If you click on that, you can put your phone number in. We will send you a text notification when I release a video, or when I go live, or when we launch a new product. I'm not going to send like, oh, 5% off today. You better buy now, buy now, buy now. That's just going to burn that bridge. But if we do something meaningful, a live stream I think is meaningful, come hang out. If I put out a video, I think that's meaningful, come hang out. If I relaunch a brand new product, I think it's worth hearing about. I'm not going to go, well, it's a new product, but I'm going to send you an email every 3 days, or a text message every 3 days for a year. That'll just burn that bridge. That's all I'm trying to do. All I'm really trying to do is, hey, you wanted to hear, it basically, here's how I imagine it. You said, hey, let me know when that comes out. Hey, let me know when you're going to put out that video. That sounds cool. And then I want to let you know. It's not, oh, hey, give me a call sometime. And now all of a sudden, I'm the annoying person calling and texting you nonstop, and you just go, yeah, let me block that person. Right? We're not going to try to do that. All right. So yeah, take control of the information. If I put it on a platform, our own website, something like that, we can control it. If you come to our website, I can make it pop up for you. If you go to the forum, we can sort information in a way. We can make archives. We can make journals. We can do a bunch of things. But and this is what's happening on every platform, by the way. I literally have, if I make a post on my own personal Facebook as an influencer, Meta has a bonus structure for me where I will get more money. If I do it on my business page, nothing. If I do it in the group, nothing. 2 months ago, business page, I get paid extra to do that. And so here's a thing that is, no one cares really, but if you rewind 18 months ago, Facebook was like, oh my gosh, we're losing the video war. No one's watching video and no one's posting video on Facebook, basically. And they go, okay, well, let's offer people ad money. And so we put out videos every week. We put out the exact same video on Facebook, and we would generate maybe $1,000 a month. That was great. We do that exact same process now. We generate $7. So even if you watch a video go viral on YouTube and you watch it go viral on Facebook, they basically have taken away all the money, and it's a chicken and the egg thing. Is that the advertisers are gone? Not really. There's a lot of advertising going on. They're just not paying very well. And so it makes it really hard. It makes it really hard to run a company like that and have a marketing team. Unfortunately, Irene is no longer with us. Some of that gets factored in of like, we have different editors now. We were paying an editor good amounts of money. It got to the point where they wanted more money than we would make from a video. And that just doesn't make sense when you start hitting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to edit a video, but you only make $140, right? Unless it goes viral and then you I made $800. That one paid for itself. And that doesn't include resources going into it. So we had to downsize, and part of it is like, okay, well, we need content. We need content to live for more than a cycle. And right now, every platform is just keep throwing stuff into there to keep the cycle going. So much so, I'll use other examples in the aquarium industry. Aquarium Info. They spend a ton of time and energy making those videos. They get millions of views. But if they don't ask you what's the best topping on your pizza as a poll, what's the best type of cookie, what dogs or cats are better, in between all those videos, they will literally become irrelevant in the YouTube land and their business will collapse. And so, unfortunately, that is what the state of social media currently for someone who has to play in that realm. And so if we truly are aligned with making the hobby better, I can make a video, it can be a flash in the pan for up to a month, and it can be gone forever, or we can start trying to build some of these conversations out on a forum or a blog or somewhere else, and then it is searchable, right? So I hope Irene's doing okay. Yeah, me too. Talked to her through email, on Tuesday, and I won't go into any more of that, but yeah, I hope she lands in a job she wants to have, and I have talked to some other businesses, but unfortunately they weren't in a position to, like, one of them had just hired a marketing person and that kind of stuff, so we'll see where we can go. Dogs are better, ask my dog. I would say this, Mountaintop Puffer Fish Keeper, he also posts on the forum, I believe. I believe it's the same person. But kind of a rad diary about breeding different puffers. Great resource that is searchable by Google, and we just need more of that. That's really what we need. We just need more of that kind of stuff going on. Corey, you need a vacation? It will benefit your mental and physical health. You sound so overwhelmed. Yeah, I am. There's no doubt about that. There's factors we can control and ones we can't. Can't get a fire alarm company to call me back. Can't get the LA port to release our goods. There's stuff definitely, but hopefully it will all work out. And the one thing I will say is I am finding my zen time by playing with my aquariums. Like, oh, living ramps are dope. Oh, I'm setting up the cichlid aquarium. Oh, I'm working on this over here. So I am getting my outlet with those. So I am enjoying that. So I miss the forum days. I miss those days. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced I missed forums. I miss the communities though, for sure. And like Aquabid was a community, right? Guppies.com, the forum was a community. Yes, it was a forum, but you knew, like, wow, that woman's been on this forum for 17 years. And I think that's what's missing out of social media, by the way, for the most part. On a forum, you can click on a user and be like, oh, here's what they've been doing. Oh, wow, you've been keeping a journal about breeding this guppy for 17 years? That's super interesting. I'm going to read that. Where that kind of gets lost, because when you click on a user like on Facebook or something, or YouTube, you click on a user and a lot of you guys have never made a video, so we don't know anything about you. On Facebook, you click there and you go, okay, well, yeah, you've shared this, you've done that. Like, oh yeah, that thing you have been doing for many, many years is so buried. If I don't look through the past 9 months, I won't even see that you're doing that. And so that's unfortunate. Can AI compile lost data about a topic? I don't know. There's definitely people that say AI can do it all, and then there's also like AI can't do anything. It's not that it can't do anything, but it gets so much wrong. And really, I don't think the path forward is how do we save all of the data that we have. You also need people making new data. You need to share your stuff. Like, I was thrilled to find Lowell's lab because he's doing videos that I enjoy, right? And he's doing those things, and he, like, I would say the reef forums are fairly healthy. Not nearly like they used to be, but they're fairly healthy. We need more people that are, hey, I've got this many aquariums. I've mastered this one thing out of necessity. Now let me share it with you. And I love when you guys go, hey, the best way to clean your air collar is a piece of tubing and a syringe. Like, that came from a forum user. That doesn't happen as much on social media, unfortunately. It does happen, just not as much. Like, I know the Duke hangs out on the forum from time to time, and he helped us design the air collar in the first iterations and all of that, right? And so I think that collaborative effort, it can happen here in a chat, it can happen other places, but a back and forth on a forum can really help, I would say. Danny's Aquariums chiming in, which, by the way, if you haven't seen Danny's Aquariums' latest build, which he's basically invested his life savings into to get 75,000 views on one video and like 50 grand on another one. He didn't pay for it. I'm just saying the build, I don't know. I actually haven't watched his videos. That's bad on me because I was watching him build it piece by piece. He literally had to like modify his staircase to get the aquarium in. But he says, Facebook's tripping. It's been paying me for performance, but now they want me to make a payout account, and my country is not even eligible. Yeah, you love that. Same thing, like Oliver Knott and Chris Lukup, they have some of the best content and do some of the best things, but there's no monetization for it in Germany. So it's nothing for them. So basically, if you're not in the US, you're not really making money. It's much harder to make money outside the US. And so really, you guys should really bring forums back, and I want to be the participant. If I have to, I will be the person that makes it, but I really want to be the participant. What's the deal with the Kentucky facility? Are you letting people tour? What's the job opportunities over there? Where exactly in Kentucky? I'm looking to retire here in a year or maybe sooner. We are in Lexington, Kentucky. We don't let people tour. That would be, it's insurance things and all that kind of stuff. And as far as jobs go, we post them on Indeed when we need them. And fortunate for us, lots of applicants, and then they go through the HR department and all of that. And yeah, I mean to do a video tour again probably at some point, but I'm always so busy when I do fly over there that I haven't yet, but should. Last time I was like, oh, inventory's so low, we need the containers to come in. Let's see here. The only thing that I found that AI does extremely well is making memes. I feel like we need a good AI meme about AI memes. Like like memes are better, like the worse they're done. Like I don't know. I guess I'm a fan of the MS Paint level meme as opposed to well done memes. Have we ever hired someone from a different country? Does that answer yes? Yes. Well, yes. I don't know that we have employees. We have contractors from other countries for different things sometimes, but I don't think we've had payroll, like normal standard payroll for other countries. I don't think that. It's usually much easier to be like, hey, you set up a business in your country and we'll pay you as a business. That's kind of easy. When I got to get into international payroll stuff, it becomes one of those like, what do we got to do to make this happen? That seems crazy. How do we clean the air collar with the tube and the syringe? There was only a video for that. I made one. Candy will have it. She's got it. So, ahead of me. Good job. I work in large language models in my job every day. It's very good, not perfect, at distilling compiled information, but it still needs human intervention. Garbage in is garbage out. And I would say, the thing is, most people are impressed by AI, myself included. Like, wow, I can do some stuff. Like, that's crazy. But the thing I think we forget is AI doesn't invent stuff for the most part. And so what I mean by that is AI can't tell me if gold barbs are going to fight with anything that's in this aquarium. It would never know, can the ellipsophore eel from Lake Tanganyika live with gold barbs or rosy barbs or something like that, unless people have gone out of their way to document all of that, then feed it into a system, and then, right? So the reality is us making videos and things like that will feed into that, and it can know that. But if we don't have people generating everybody's aquarium is basically a miniature study. I've got 15 of them going. You might have 5 of them going. They're all miniature studies. So when you write up something about them, you basically writing a report. The more people that are doing that, the smarter everybody will get, AI included. The problem is AI can't have a tank there and start its own thing. It can write a report, but it can't start the study and run the study. So that's the problem we have. And as basically the problem is there is less incentive market-wide as AI gets better. So, for instance, it's not even if, AI can basically make shorts all day long. We could use an AI model and put out 1,000 shorts a day for aquariums. There's lots of, you can look at videos of how you would do it. The automation process of uploading, the automation process of titling them, the automation process of making the thumbnails, you can automate all of it. The problem is that takes away the money, which is the incentive of like an aquarium co-op. to do even more of it. So outside of, we want to help the hobby, we want to make money, we want to sell products, the more you do of that, the more you will lose someone that maybe doesn't have a business and things like that. Like, maybe like Danny's Aquariums might be a great example. He's a dude that's been doing it since 14, sharing his adventure, and the money he makes goes back into the hobby, and it's just enough he's doing that instead of a different job and providing content and learning and sharing, right? But if all of a sudden all the views were getting gobbled up by AI, he would be making no money, and therefore he will have to go get a job, and then if he's got enough time, he could still make the videos. And I just think that will have an impact. I don't know if it's good or bad yet. We won't know until we're there, but it will have an impact, I believe, and it has direct impact on revenue and all that kind of stuff right now. So we'll see where it goes and how it changes. Let's see here. Is this like a coffee table book about coffee tables? Probably. Meta. I'm still a member of Monster Fish Keepers. Still a great source of information. It's not all monster fish these days. Yeah, so there was Monster Fish Keepers. There was Aquatic. What was their other? Is it APC, Aquatic Plant Central, or just AC? Aquarium. It was Aquarium Central. Was also owned by the Monster Fish Keeper people. And that was one of the, I think might have been the first forum I ever joined. You could probably find me on there because I was into monster fish. And yeah, so I ended up on that forum probably twice a year, 3 times a year maybe. And I always wanted, all right, the forum, but it's so slow. And what I mean by that is like, the section I'm interested in hasn't had a post in 11 days. Like, oof. And that's the chicken and the egg thing, right? So if I go to Monster Fish Keepers, let's look at a subject here that might make some sense. Let's just pick African Rift Lake cichlids, right? Let's see. So there's been one post today, and then the last post was on Thursday. So I believe for a forum to be healthy, you need to create a habit. And a habit would be I check it maybe every day or every morning and every night, whatever that's going to be. And when you get there, there's got to be new stuff. If you get there and you're like, nothing today, and you go back tomorrow, nothing new today, eventually you just stop going, right? So yes, there's posts, but like, in that one, like, it's been a few days, that's not great. And then if we look at like, okay, let's look at pike cichlids, right? There's not too many forums about pike cichlids. You've got, so you have a post from yesterday at 10:21 a.m. The post before that was September 27th. So what is that? Nearly a month ago, 3 weeks ago? Like, that's the problem right now. Like, oof. So even the people that are really into pikes are going, there's nowhere to live. Like, no one's hanging out talking about pike cichlids. Then you could pick stuff like, let's look at angelfish and discus. Why not? They should be more popular, right? The last post was from August 6th. Like, simply discus is probably the place to go, I guess. I don't know. And a lot of times what you find is what's powering these forums is the for sale section. They're active, but that doesn't foster the right community. That's buyers and sellers. You need people that want to stay in the hobby, and those are mostly buyers, but also people that are tinkering and creating that. So I love, like, there is a wealth of information on these forums, and they're super good when you get into them. And then you decide you want to hang out in them, and that's where you realize, like, it's like you're in a library and you're like, wow, there's just everything here. And then you're like, we've got different clubs every night of the week, right? And every night of the week, and then you show up and you're like, it's me, and you're leaving early because it's only us? Okay. And then you show up the next night, all right. It's literally just me. Okay. And then maybe you try 2 nights later and you strike out again and then you just never do it again. Meanwhile, there's 1,000 people all doing the strikeout going, same thing happens with clubs. It takes like 100 people to get a club to go all the time. When you only have 30 people, the minute you've got 2 families on vacation, it like dies out. Could change the title of this video to Community Aquarium Forums are the best. Let's save them. The problem is, once I do that, no one will watch it. No one likes a forum right now. And it's just because there's no good examples. We need good examples. It's really hard to become it's hard to make the thing, right? You can have a bunch of people say, yeah, we need an aquarium club. And everyone goes, yeah, someone do that work. And then you do the work and then like, oh, magically it's not working. Oh, darn. And then if you keep up with it, a few years later, you might go, okay, now we got a struggling one. Great. Let's see. Nice. Let's see. Pending on a few Amazonas currently, there will be... Oh, Amazona puffers. Okay. There will be better each round, I believe. I was thinking Amazonas magazine. I was like, ooh, are you getting published? Isn't Reddit just like a forum? No. And the reason why is Reddit also has the problem of, like, if you go to the aquarium Reddits, if you haven't made like once you make a post, 72 hours later, it basically won't exist. And I don't take it word for word because you're like, oh no, I saw one from 5 days ago. Like, sure, replace it with 5 days. But what you have to search or make it an article. Like when someone does something really good, and you'll still, so here's how you know it doesn't work like a forum basically. When people in the social media groups, whether it's Reddit or Facebook or wherever, are going, it's only ever the same questions. They're very common, right? But because it's not surfaced in a way where people can get the answers very easily, they end up hitting the same questions. This chat's a great example. All the time, people will be like, hey, what about this question? And a lot of people are going, I know the answer to that. He's already said that. But because it's not indexable and searchable and all of that, it's a bummer. Any plans to do videos with Dean? No plans. We were talking over the weekend, but we haven't made any plans. We're still in the phase of like, we should totally do this. Let me look at my schedule. And he goes, yeah, let me look at my schedule. And then we just like, oh yeah, we're busy. Okay, let's try again later. It's answering some work stuff. Wondering where you source your gravel for my Vallisneria tank. Just ordered some Val off the site, and I have some relatively fine sand looking for a layer of gravel. Loaded up with root tabs. My gravel I source from my store. We source from a wholesaler. The one that's in my tank right now, you can kind of get it at any fish store. Like, you call them up and you go, hey, do you have tan, like, natural gravel? And then they go, yep. And then you go, sweet, I'll be in and I'll buy it. Nothing special about it, really. Same thing with Aquabid. Someone needs to buy that site and get it updated badly. This is where it comes into the monetary thing. The problem is, to do an Aquabid, I've looked into it. To do an Aquabid, I believe to do it correctly is somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000. Between the marketing you're going to need, and that's including having access to like me already. Marketing, infrastructure, legal team policies, all that kind of stuff on the back end. And then you're going to go, okay, then how do I make money? Like, okay, ads. Oh, but isn't that like $300 a month for that kind of traffic? Like, yeah, you might recoup it by the time you die. And then like, what if I take a cut out of each purchase? Like, and then people just use Amazon, eBay, and Etsy instead. Like, the reason Aquabid stays around is there's no official cut. You can donate, but you don't have to. And so that's the problem with that kind of stuff. Like, oh, okay, we got to figure out. But when it's on top, if Aquabid was on top, it stays on top, right? So the time to fix that, unfortunately, was 10 years ago. That time has come and gone. Now you would need someone to be philanthropic, and be like, I'm going to make this thing. It's never going to make money until it will someday, right? Like, okay, 14 years in, like, It's just doing the thing, all right. And so that's a hard one. It's a hard nut to crack. Going, hey, I got to do all this to really not make money. That's a brutal undertaking. Can we bring aquarium co-op tanks to some local fish store partners? Maybe someday. Currently, no. One, we don't have enough. Two, you need to ship them by pallet, and most local fish store partners aren't buying stuff in pallet quantities. So it doesn't make sense to try and ship an aquarium, like 3 aquariums. It'll just arrive broken. We may as well try to ship them to you, and they would just arrive broken. So that's why I don't ship them to you even. So at some point, that would be the goal. Part of it also is we need to get shipping to be, we need to like, it's always chicken and the egg, right? If you ship 10,000 pallets a year, pallet shipping's real cheap. You ship 1 pallet, real expensive. And then it's like, well, it doesn't make sense to ship anything via pallet. It's real expensive. Like, yeah, So you kind of got to build and build and build and build to get it to work. Just got a AI meme. Good. Yes, more articles on puffers published in Amazonas. Oh, okay. So far, just the Powell Pulstratus ones from 2022 from me, but more pretty close to getting in soon. Oh, that's good. That's great to hear, Mountain. I'm glad to see there's so few people really doing what you're doing with puffers that I'm glad to see that it will be being archived in some format. So, yeah, I definitely, that's one of the threads I'll check in on from time to time. I'm not a nightly reader on yours, but definitely know enough to know you're doing cool things. I work for UPS. You don't want to ship your aquariums? Oh, I know this. Yeah. Let's see here. Sometimes I just sit and stare at the live stream tank and zone out. Yeah. Yep. Cool thing from the video, I don't know if you guys will see this, but this aquarium is running 50% as much light as it was. So you guys will see why and all of that, but to me it looks the same on my camera, which I realize is different. Search engines are very bad now. I think actually search engines are better than they've ever been. They've just been tuned to do things we don't want them to do. Like, in general, I don't believe that like, oh man, Google or whoever has gotten worse with their technology. I think their goals just aren't aligned anymore. It used to be, let's get you the best information you could want. Now it's, let's serve as many ads as we can and do other things. So they just have different goals set. And so there is hope that at any point the goals could change, in which case we could fix a lot of things. Missed most of it for family stuff, but I'm here now. Well, that's Brett. Good on you. Hanging out with family. Don't feel bad about that. You know, you come to the fish fam after that. Real family first, then that. What's the par reading at the substrate level of that tank now? I want to say I put it at about 25. The video will know. I could watch my own video and go, oh yeah, it's exactly this. Or I could grab my meter and check it again, but turned it down quite a bit. Quite a bit. Jono says, Corey, I'm a big fan. All right, then. Any information you could share about lizard hillstream loaches would be great. I can't seem to find much online. I have the same information as you. Google it and then be like, here's a thing and a half. Like, that's all I really know about them. I haven't kept them. So, unfortunately, yeah, I can't really help you. That's a bummer. I hate that. I hate when someone goes like, hey, do you know the answer? And I go, no, I don't know the answer either. And now it's like Google, and it's like, well, Google doesn't know either. Like, dang it, now, well, no one knows anymore. I don't know. Asian schooling fish for a 29-gallon aquarium? I feel like I'm so bad with geography, I'm paralyzed with not making any suggestions. I instantly go like, what about the other type of rummy nose? Like, what are the other Asian schooling fish that I can pull off the top of my head? Like, white clouds, but they don't really school. Yeah. I've always focused on, like, how do I keep this fish? How do I breed this fish? How do I make it happy? And so little on where does that thing actually come from? Outside of outliers of like, oh, what about like mascara barbs and stuff coming from India and that kind of stuff. Like I've never focused on it, so I'm terrible. Yeah, rummy nose reservoirs are great for that size. Yeah, that's the fish I'm referencing. But like, there should be long, long lists, but I hesitate to see them because I'm like, I don't know exactly what country that originates from. And for the most part, I don't care because a lot of them are coming from breeders and they're living all in the same community aquariums anyway. And I don't really believe in biotope aquariums. So, how do I learn the ins and outs of business? Did I learn them as I go? Yep. I stumbled and wasted money and was frustrated all along the way. Every day is another, as I say too often, that's a lesson I had to pay to learn, I guess. And then when you pay to learn that lesson, you go, let's make sure I don't have to learn that again. That was painful. It's about time to start my annual rewatch of all the old fish room videos. Got to get my daily dose. I was actually referencing, so part of it was in this video, and this wasn't in the video, so I won't ruin it for you, but I was thinking, I don't ever remember having this much problem with my aquariums looking so crappy. And so I went and started looking back at old fish room videos, and I was like, yeah, they weren't as crappy. And I believe it's because I had less light. In my career, I've gained access to more product and more money, which means I've just had more light, which means I used more light. And I believe that by running less light, my aquariums just look better. And so I'm actually basically testing that real time in front of you guys. We'll see if I'm full of it or if it totally works. But Dean, for instance, he runs his lights about as dark as they could possibly go. And then when we go film, he has to turn them all up. But he virtually has no algae, and it's not even about the algae, because algae is a good thing, right? It's that if you don't have to spend any time on algae, dosing fertilizer 3 or 4 times a week instead of once a week, doing these types of tasks, you now get to spend that time doing other things, right? And so that might be like breeding fish or setting up the next aquarium. And so if I only have, honestly, I'm lucky to have maybe an hour a day. And it's never an hour every day, but it's like, hey, like Friday, I think it was, I had a day where I'm like, I think I have a half day to work on stuff. And so I did. And that 4 or 5 hour block allowed me to set up an aquarium, get a bunch of stuff I want to get done, where normally for me, it's like, ooh, I better do glass, and I better do this, and I better do that, and I better do that, and then I gotta film the video, and I gotta do this. And so like Friday for me was filmed 3 videos, 1 for you guys, 2 for stores. And then I did research because I wanted to research about lighting, and then I started thinking about this whole like information thing. And then I set up an aquarium and I moved fish and I did all of that. And so that all of that, which even half that was work, that was a day off basically. And so if I can spend less time doing maintenance stuff, I get more time to go, ooh, let me look at this fish. Can I breed this one? Can I do that? Let me move this fish. I've been working that in lately. So I went through all of the Vienna guppies last week, and I spent an hour basically removing all the ones I wanted to sell at the store. Those are all for sale at the store, by the way, my retail store. And then I took a lot of my blue/black shrimp in for sale. They've been selling well at the store. But I've been starting to catch up on some of these tasks. Basically so far, in my estimation, the answer is turn the light down, which if you made that statement, AI will not understand. By turning the aquarium lights down, you will be able to sell more fish, and you will have more time to set up aquariums and stuff. It makes no sense. But that's the cause, and now I'm seeing what the result was. So If you can't pay rent for 2 years without making $1, don't open a fish store. If you can't pay rent for 2 years, then I would have never opened. I didn't have the money. When I opened my store, I was out of money. So I think there's lots of statements that get thrown around, and really it's much more bigger conversations like, here, watch this hour-long video or this 2-hour-long one, or read this whole thing about how I opened my store. Everything is always more nuanced than a social media post will allow, basically. And you're not wrong, but you're also not right. Like, if you built a rad store and you had all the experience, you can make enough money in your first month to do it. Where, for instance, if your rent is $3,000 a month and you have to have 50 grand, or no, that would be 72 grand. I don't think most people will have 72 grand sitting in a bank account just to pay rent and never make money. I think it's more often that people are like, hey, you better have like 20 grand in there when you open so that you can hopefully make enough to do that. What does CARES stand for? I don't even know if I remember anymore. Community, Aquarium, like respect. I gotta read it. Let me see if I can. It's got to be spelled out somewhere. I haven't thought about that in a long time, but I know I spent time figuring out what it is. Do we have any of the acronyms spelled out anymore, or are all the graphics gone? Let's see. Community. Yeah, Community Aquarium Resource. I made a video about it, like, basically don't be mean to people, and I spell it out somewhere, but yeah, I wanted an acronym, and CARE, Community Aquarium Resource, something, I don't know. That's easier to say, I don't know. I don't remember. It was good at the time. I'll look it up later, and then I'll go, yeah, that's what it is. That was clever. Glad we did that. But the honest answer is, I don't know. I don't know what it means anymore. Because I've always called it the CARE Forum. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I know the concept. Like, so the Fishing Nomad says, the video on the forum explains what the forum rules are and what it stands for. I know I went a lot more into, like, this is what it says, but I can tell you the TLDR is, you're choosing to be at this forum. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. And I routinely have to correct people. And they're like, no, my opinion, I can be irritating to people. It's like, no, you can't. There we go. So 2 people got it for me. Community Aquarius respect each other. There you go. Because and I still believe this, social media, everyone puts out their opinion and they don't have to be nice to each other. And I don't like participating in where people are fighting and trying to one-up each other and doing that kind of stuff. So, yeah, the forum will be that way. And I've banned people with 10,000 posts. Like, you're gone. You know, they get a warning of like, you're breaking the rules. You know what the rules are. And people think they're like, oh, well, they're not going to ban me. You know how much I'm posting over here? And then I just click the button and I'm like, and you're gone. Like, nobody, the only person that you could argue is more special is me. And I'm not special. It's just like, because I'm the guy doing the work. I'm not going to ban myself. Everybody else, like, I don't care if you're a mod. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're my grandma. If you're not being nice to people, we're not going to tolerate it. Because I can't tolerate it on you. I do get testy with people from time to time. And people call me on it. I apologize. And then I take a break. And I'm overworked. I am not perfect either. And I don't expect everybody that is there to be perfect either. So we try to go, in the mod team, because we've got a forum for it, it's like, we don't know, did they just get laid off from work? Did they just, have a bad thing happen in real life? Let's give them 24 hours and basically go like, hey, you coming back to reality here? This is a good place. You've been hanging out. You've been doing good. You want to stay here? And some people just keep losing it. And they're like, okay, well, then. And then they'll, just like on YouTube, they'll get banned or something and come back 6 months, a year later going, hey, can I get back in there? Like, no, we had that chance. We had that chance and we're not doing it. So. Are the Weighted air stones, one of the products stuck at the dock? Yes. Prototypes are here. I actually installed one on the new aquarium I'm working on. One right here. So and I've got one right here even. Haha. Yeah, you can take them apart and you can build them and make them bigger and you can clean them and all that. So, and they're all green, so they blend in with your plants. Your last video on shrimp was 7 years ago. Maybe it's not the most interesting thing for you, but maybe an easy topic to revisit. I find that hard to believe. I feel like I love shrimp. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just having a hard time believing the last time I made a video about that was 7 years ago. In my opinion, I'm gonna search my own channel and I'm gonna confirm or deny. Let me just type in shrimp. And then I'll try and... So we did one 4 years ago. Hobbyist Breeds award-winning shrimp, where I traveled to Germany with Chris Lukup, the Shrimp King. That was 2 years ago. TDS meters are killing a shrimp was 7 years ago. How to breed tray shrimp was 7 years ago. That's just brine shrimp. That was 4 months ago. Beautiful, easy planted tanks for your shrimp step-by-step was 1 year ago. Top 5 shrimp, snails, and crabs for your aquariums 3 years ago. But I did a short that no one cares about. The perfect shrimp for your nano aquarium 2 weeks ago. But you're not wrong. Well, okay, here's the video. New shrimp aquarium setup. Fish room episode update 119 a year ago. But you are correct, and I agree, and internally I have the struggle. I believe I should make more shrimp content because I love shrimp and tons of people keep shrimp. And I love them. And we should do more. And yes, I want to do more. So, yeah, kind of both right. I should do more and I want to do more. But I also, the problem I run into a lot with lots of subjects, I never feel like I know enough about anything. And why I say that is, I'm just another hobbyist like you guys, except I happen to own Aquarium Co-op, which I realize is a thing, but tomorrow you're going to feed your fish and go, look, it's doing a thing. I wonder what that is. I'm going to do the same thing. Hey, look, I'm feeding a fish. Look, it's doing a thing. I wonder what that is. And so it's hard for me to be like, should I be talking about shrimp, though? Like, you've got the Shrimp King. You've got lots of shrimp YouTubers and other breeders. And people I buy shrimp from, like Eric, is it Eric Lucas? Yeah, Eric Lucas. And so you've got all of these things. And I just go, yeah. And I understand some people want to hear my voice or the way I explain it. I do understand that. But I hate when I do stuff and it's like, oh, that's not right. This guy's a fool. Like, yeah, I know. I don't know. I just the way I do it. $16 months. Some paid, some gifted. Thank you all. Well, good to have you around, Nathan. Best 75-gallon tank for experienced keepers? I think it's start with something you're passionate about, then push the bounds. You know, that's where I most of my stuff, there's 2 types of community tanks for me. One I'm planning and one I'm not planning. And so like this one's kind of planning, like what would I think look cool in there? Okay, what are we going to do? And then there's community tanks that are, I'm getting new fish. Let me put these in. You can live in there. Yeah, you can live in there too. Yeah, you can live in there too. And it just works, right? So I think pick something that you want and then go, what would push the bounds of what I'm comfortable doing? I mean, don't kill your fish, obviously, but, go, that makes some sense. I bet that could work. Let me try that. And then do that. Any update on the 800-gallon? Yeah, I mean, I'm working on it. And as I told someone earlier in the chat, basically, I've moved away, for now at least, of showing you how I do stuff like that. And I'm going to do it. And then I'm just going to show the tank of like, hey, look, it looks pretty good now. And mostly it's for my own mental health. There's only so many times I can show everything that's going on. And then I could have 5 things that are amazing and 1 thing that's bad. And there's still going to be X amount of comments like, yeah, that tank looks terrible. And I'm like, I know. I'm aware. Yeah, I get it. And so it's easier just not to show it and just be like, all right, I'm interested in this thing. I'm going to show this. I'm teaching this little subject right here. And so my Vallisneria is not growing as fast as I wanted. I actually just reduced the light by a ton, and we'll see what that's going to do. And yes, the Congo tetras look amazing. The loaches look amazing. I'm starting to get a little bit of hair algae. I'm going, ooh, do I move? Really, the real answer is I want to know if gold barbs will eat algae so I can put them in the 800 gallon. I just don't want to try them in an 800 gallon, have them not eat it, and then have to spend a week and a half catching them back out. So that's why they're not going there. The saltwater aquarium side of the hobby is the most brutal side of the hobby in my experience. People can be very mean and rude, much more so than the freshwater side. I don't know. I don't hang out there enough to know is it truly better or worse. In my opinion, everywhere you go in life, there are going to be those bad actors. So, there's definitely harsh people in discus world, betta world, community tank world, all those worlds. Are the numbers the same? I don't know, but doesn't have to be the same. If both your neighbors are the world's betta expert armchair warrior on the internet and the other one is oxalotls, and that's what you want to keep, you don't need a whole lot to ruin your hobby. You've really sold me on those rosy barbs. If I ever get a 125, I've been eyeballing for my kitchen. That's where they're going. Yeah, I love these things. I can't tell you how much I love these rosy barbs. It is not logical, but awesome. Mostly, it would be like, imagine if your fancy guppies were the best algae eaters, too. You're just like, they're perfect. They're perfect in every way. They make more. They're awesome. Would F1 Ultim Angels be really hard to keep, like on par with man-made discus strains? I love wild-type angels and want to level up. I don't think so. I think they're a little bit easier than discus because you don't have to keep them as hot, and I think I've just had easier times with them, but I classify them as easier, but that doesn't mean anything. Something that's easy to me doesn't mean it's easy for you, but I would say that. Am I planning to go overseas and film in the near future? Not in the near future, no. I think every community is what you make of it. Surround yourself with smart people who exhibit good intentions. Yeah, that's what I've realized. I've basically had, let's call it 12 years of internet, and I tried to do that early on before. So here's my guess. My guess is doing it for work all day, every day, put me ahead of the curve of the average person, right? The average person goes to work 8 hours, has a commute each way, and maybe you spend 3 hours on the internet, right? Well, I was spending 12 to 14 hours a day on the internet. I got ahead of the curve. If you go back to older live streams and stuff, I'd be like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. And you would watch people lose their minds. Like, you're just creating an echo chamber, Corey. You're such a fool. You're an idiot. Please die. Now, I think we're much more aware of the effects overall of social media and what it can do to your mental health, and just we've all had more doses of like, yeah, Grandpa Jerry over there is kind of just not nice, and I don't have to interact with him online and all of that. And so now it's more acceptable to be like, hey, I just don't want to hang out with people that I don't find fun to hang out with. And now everyone's like, that's a fair take. All right, guy. Yeah, do that. But 5 years ago, that was, nuh-uh, you got to listen to me complain about you. Like, that was what was acceptable. So, but yeah, I mean, that's basically what I've tried to do with the forum and the Facebook group and everything, is like, if you can't be a nice person, I don't want to be around you, and therefore I just won't be around you. And being that I have to be there, one of two people's got to go, and I got the answer. It ain't me. And there's the balloons. So we know we're serious here. Now, that being said, I realize that I am the odd man out when I go to someone else's group. And because of that, I usually try to go out of my way to be a benefit to that group, right? So if I show up and it's your Magic the Gathering group, I'm going to try to be a nice guy, right? If I go to your work, I'm going to try to be a nice person because that's what I want people to be doing at my work or the spaces I hang out in. That doesn't mean that Corey is a saint all day, every day. My wife will attest to that. Usually, business things really irritate me a lot when they're really inefficient and I can't shut my brain down from thinking about them. But in general, if I'm not having a good experience somewhere, don't go there. Same thing. If you don't have a good experience here in this live stream, don't come here. I'm sorry. I'm not better. My bad. Hopefully, there's someone else live streaming right now way better. Watch them. That's all I can do. I deleted all my social media 10 years ago. It was great. Before I started Aquarium Co-op, I basically didn't have social media. I did the opposite. From like, oh, I don't use that crap to that's all I do all day long. Let's see here. People have been like that since AOL. Yeah, I don't know about that. AOL was different. Back in the day, Prodigy, AOL, you were paying by the hour to be online. And yes, there were still irritating people, but people didn't literally live online nonstop and everybody was there and you couldn't escape them, basically. You know, now you can basically make a post that says, hey, I'm going to get rid of a bunch of my friends on Facebook for my own mental health. And people are like, okay. Where 5-10 years ago, you unload Uncle Larry, the racist, and this person and that person, and they would be, you know, like all of a sudden you got your Nana like, why aren't you talking to Larry anymore? And what about this? And what about that? Like, times have changed. People will always be people. Like, whether they're being mean online, in person, all of that, people are always going to be people, no doubt. But, you know, as time goes on, you find different ways to cope with it or separate from it or whatever. And it even happens in fish. There is, if you take big groups of people, there are different people that like community tanks, that like shrimp, that like killifish, that like bettas, that like Central and South American big aggressive cichlids, that like African cichlids, that like saltwater. If you were to study all of those groups, they are different groups of people. Now, you go, no, I like all of them. Like, yes, I understand, but if you were to look at groups of 10,000 of each of those, you will notice demographics. So much so people build businesses on it. Like, for instance, there is a fish store right next to an army base. They stock large aquariums with big aggressive fish because in general, that's what the clientele are into, right? And there are other factors too, like, oh, well, that army money living on base, they get these checks and they can afford to buy a big aquarium. And then when they get deployed somewhere else, they sell the fish in the aquarium back to the thing and they sell it to the next person, right? So some of it is environmental, but some of it are just demographic too, of like age and where you live in the country, and all those things play a factor. But that, just like I, in general, don't like aggressive fish, I don't like aggressive humans. I don't like being around people that drink. I don't drink. So we do that in life all the time of like, hey, I'm not really in that scene. That's not mine. That's not where I'm at. So I joined the Facebook just to follow Aquarium Co-op. I had to reply saying I had to be on Facebook for a year before. Yeah, so unfortunately, there's so many bad actors on these social media platforms that we have to set settings. Because, like, let's say you don't put, you got to be there for 6 months or a year. You'll have, no joke, 1,000 fake accounts a day trying to join the group. And then once they get in, they just spam whatever they're trying to sell. Like, hey, we're selling these, like these measuring spoons. That's what we do. Like, buy them from us on whatever platform we're on. And so unfortunately, you have to put some parameters in there to prevent that. And it's a bummer. It's a mega bummer. We have to do it on the forum too. Like there's different things to prevent, who's joining, who's spamming, who's doing things. So I've had to delete the accounts and start fresh a couple of times. Hard to do that with a business. Yeah, it's a scorched earth. Like, I'm going to rebuild from the ground up each time for a business, and that's not always the best tactic there. Let's see here. As much as I try, I'm a puffer guy, and the rest are just not quite puffers for me. And that's totally all right. That's kind of me when it comes to, like, guppies and live bears. Like, people are like, why do you like it? I don't know. I can get any fish in the world, and you know what I want? I want whatever the next guppy is I don't have. Are discus or apistos easier? In my experience, apistos are easier than discus. Whether it's size of aquariums or just water changes or feeding or whatever that is, I'm not sure, but they seem easier to me that way. Have my first order from Aquarium Co-op on the way? All right, Jessica. It's about time. Which I guess more of my job should be, by the way, Sunday's a great day to be ordering all your stuff. We've got the plants, we got the things, we got the doodads. We try to be respectful. We try to do a good job. And if you need some aquarium stuff, aquariumcoop.com if you're in the United States. We will take all of that money and try to do good things with it the best we can. That might mean buying me a Diet Coke tomorrow. It might mean improving the forum the next day. It might be making a video the day after that. But we will try. That's all we can do. Let's see here. Happy little trees. I live in Los Angeles. I've got a 100-gallon tank. It's 6 foot by 2 foot. I want to stand. Wait, that's not right. I want sand for my tank substrate. I've got Culilochus habrosus corridoras. Is the Home Depot pool filter okay, or should I get something else? Nope, that should work just fine, Drew. You just got to rinse it a ton. It can be real murky, and I don't like doing that in October because my hands get cold. But if you've got, if you've got warmer water or somewhere to do it inside, or if you had to do it outside, wait for a warm day. Yeah. Answer in the store. Even when I work, I work. When I work, I work, I work. All right. I ordered a couple of your large sponge filters. I was amazed they were $10 given all the effort to put effort out into the product itself and into the packing alone. Yeah. Believe it or not, there are definitely things we do that don't really make us money. In aggregate, they do. But there's just stuff that won't make us money, and that's okay. We do need to make money to stay open. That's true. I got to pay Candy's wages and everybody in my company's wages and all that, right? But we are not owned by stockholders or any craziness like that. So it's not like if you don't improve by 10% in profit, we will have mass layoffs and we will do radical things. Instead, it's, I'm a hobbyist that goes, I want to sell it to you as cheap as I can while staying in business and being able to invest in the next thing we want to try and do. That's really what it comes down to. And, we've had sponge filters as high as $15, as low as $6. Shipping has gone all the way around in the years I've been doing it. We just kind of assess it each time going, what can we do? And, we moved all of our operations to Kentucky. That sponge filter can't be that cheap if we ship it out of Washington. So we spent lots and lots of money, and we moved to Kentucky, and we're still recovering from that. We're doing everything we can to set us up for a better future. So moving to Kentucky, we are one step closer to shipping your local store fish tanks. And the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Like, but they are definitely, there's big steps. Sometimes like, oh, we got to climb the ladder to get up there for the next thing. Can I buy a share of the store? Sounds like a solid investment. No. There's there is a list of people that want to invest, and I don't want to have outside influence. Not that I wouldn't take people's input, because that's very important. In fact, one of my employees mentioned it, and it's a great idea, and we'll see what we can do. But we want to ask more people. Basically, I want to ask, like, would you recommend Aquarium Co-op to someone you know? And then when you say no, I want you to tell me why. And then our teams of people can look at, how could we make that better? Is that something we should make better? Because just because someone says no doesn't mean that they're correct, right? Sometimes, like in food, for instance, you can have people argue, is it, thin crust or deep dish pizza or whatever it is? The people that like each one of those are all correct. And so if you say, would you recommend my pizza place to someone else? If I make thin crust and you love deep dish and you say, no, you should make thin crust, that doesn't mean we're going to change our business to make thin crust. But if you say, hey, no, your bathrooms are dirty, we should probably clean our bathrooms, right? And so the more data we get in meaningful ways, because it doesn't do any good. Like, Corey, you're a doo-doo head and I don't like you. Like, there's nothing I can really do about that. But if you could say, hey, I don't like this thing, and here's why, and here's an example of it being done well, right? Then we can look into it and go, okay, maybe that makes sense to implement. Yeah. In an old stream, he talked about Andy and his incredible results from his aquariums by focusing on nature. Could he ever speak for the members? Yeah, Andy is an amazing dude. I have asked him many times over the years. He's not really into it. And I think he's onto something here, but he basically is anti-technology. He does not own a computer. He has never had an email address. His wife does. His wife runs the business. He's a beekeeper and all that, but you can call him on a phone. That is the only way to talk to this man. You can't send him a text message. You can't send him an email. You could drive to him, or you can call him on the phone. A flip phone is the extent of his technology. Now, that is the peak of his technology, but he can use every tool on the planet like he's an expert. So none of his brain cells went to learning how to write an email, but he can dismantle and use a router to build the craziest thing you've ever seen and weld it together and do all of those things. And he has owned a nursery. He has worked at, he's owned a fish farm. He has worked at stores. He's done all these things. And so he approaches the world in a different way and has allowed him to do crazy cool stuff, even in his aquariums. He hasn't kept aquariums in probably 5 years at this point. But that doesn't mean he's still keeping tropical plants and doing some stuff. And at any day he could come back, but to aquariums, I would say. And being that he won't basically do anything outside of an in-person presentation, I don't think we'll get him on video. And I don't think he even really ever let me video his tanks ever. I do know I videoed him once somewhere, but I can't find the footage because I wanted to show you guys the mind-blowing number of guppies he would keep in these aquariums, and they would be so healthy. I don't know where that footage, I don't know if it ever made it. I don't know where it is. If there was ever going to be a thing, he would do it in person. He would do it at the store, something like that. And he's the guy that helped me build the store originally. So there is a chance of like, hey, maybe we have him come back, see what we did, how we made it better. And he's the guy that he's one of the people that will stand up to me and go, what are you doing? You got it all wrong, kid. And when times were tough, I remember specifically one time we were selling online and that kind of stuff, and people were asking for it. People wanted fake plants. And I remember I brought in like one batch and he saw them in a box. He was at the store buying some stuff. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, this is the opposite of everything you stand for. And I go, I know, but everybody wants fake plants. Like, for the people that don't want to grow live plants, they'll spend a lot of money on fake plants. And I remember I never even put them on the hooks at the store, and I sent them back because he's like, but that's not what you set out to do. And he's like, I didn't help you build this store to do that. We literally had a mission to get more people to keep aquarium plants in their aquariums. And I go, I know, but it's really hard, and I want to stay in business. And he's like, well, then you're just going to have to sell more aquarium plants and convince more people. And at that time, that was in the time where it was the first few years, you know, there was a point where we almost went out of business because we flooded the store and money was crazy, crazy tight. And when you have people going, bring in these plants, I will basically double your money on these plastic plants. I got all the way to they were in the store, but they never made it onto the wall, and they never have since. But that was, you know, hard points. And so he was a guy that was, he is the most opinionated person you will ever meet, pretty much. He's got a lot of quirks about him and a lot of mantras, and you know, one of them is he only speaks on things he knows. And so if he doesn't know, he just goes, hey, I don't know about that. I don't know about technology. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But the minute you're in his wheelhouse, what comes out of that mouth will unfortunately be true. Whether you want to hear it or not, it'll be true, because it won't come out of his mouth unless he 100% believes that that is a fact. And when you only talk that way, you end up being right a lot of the time. Because if you just won't open your mouth unless you know it's a fact, it's hard to be wrong. And so, you know, he ended up being right on that point. We got through those tough times, and we still only sell live plants. And yeah, so yeah, it's a good memory you brought up, Tyler. Thanks for that. Let's see. We're basically at 5 o'clock. We'll try to wrap this up a little bit. When doing dry fertilizer, the kit I have recommends dosing each of the R powders on different days. Am I wasting time by doing them all on the same day? First thing, you should probably ask the people you're buying it from. Second thing, yes, you would be wasting time dosing them all on the same day. So what happens is when you've got something like, let's just say making an easy green, people are like, why don't I just buy the dry things and do it myself? Like, yeah, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing that. What you find is different stuff will bond together and form basically minerals that the plants can't uptake. So you have to do them in a correct order, or allow them to be, you know, that space between, like they're recommending, is so you don't make stuff that could either become toxic or non-usable by the plants. And so, yeah. So even with the Easy Green, if you mix it, if the manufacturer mixes it in the incorrect way, it will not work. So, and also if you put too much of some things in Easy Green, it will not work. And so that's where we reach some limitations of, like, you can physically fit more in the bottle. It just won't be good for plants anymore. So yeah. But yeah, ask them. And the reason I say ask them is, one, buy my Easy Green. That's what we do. But two, they will know their product way more than I will know it. So if they go, oh, no, you can actually do it on the same day, doesn't matter, bro, then they'll know that. If they say, like, oh, here's why, and usually the here's why is what helps you understand why you're doing it. Like, oh, okay, well, now that makes sense. And mostly, I want people to know their products. Not, you know, there are people that are selling all-in-one fertilizers out there where they don't even have a label on the bottle. And then you're like, what's in the bottle? Stuff. Oh, yeah? What's that stuff do? Make your plants grow. Okay, but what's in there? Yeah. I think at the bare minimum, you should be able to say, here's what's in here, and here's what it's supposed to do, and here's how I can help you. That's why you would give me money. Let's see. Did I choose the green branding? It's brilliant. Is there a story why green is the color? Green is the color because Corey Green, my aunt who passed away many years ago now, for whatever reason, I was always drawn to the color green, even in like middle school and everything. So my family would be like, it's Corey Green. And I would most often be wearing green. And so it was real easy for me to be like, well, I need to pick some colors. And when you go, my brand's all about nature, and you're like, well, I could I could be donkey poop brown, or I could be green. Which one should I choose? Turns out green is better when you're talking about green plants and all of that kind of stuff. So we went with green, and choosing the actual green, that moved a little bit because it was kind of just green. Then when we started manufacturing colors, you have to start choosing like, oh, which Pantone color, like, serial number green are you? And even that isn't always the same coming out of manufacturers. So, but in general, kind of green and nature and like this natural color, I call it natural. I'm just into that. Not that I hate everything else. I like other stuff too, but in general, through meeting my friend Andy that helped me start the store originally and everything, I met him when I was early 20s, right? And I fell in love with basically his way of life of like, you're a beekeeper and you're always dirty with like wood and just other stuff. And I never cared about wood at all until I met Andy, and his wood collection was mind-blowing to me. And then I started liking highly figured lumber and just liking it was that time of my life where I was like, wait, but the color of light on wood looks good. I never really knew that before then. Before then, it was like, yeah, turn a light on. And you wouldn't know that, like, oh, that's a bright, white, harsh light. I don't like that. This is a warm, welcoming light and all of those things. And his home was awesome because it was like, oh, he made this thing. He would choose these art pieces from around the world and just different cool pieces of wood and just things made with someone's hands. And opening my world up to that made me appreciate. I was already appreciating nature because I was into guppies and fish and that kind of stuff, and that's how we met. But it took it to another level, basically, of like, oh, yeah, you can basically bring this into your home where you're choosing, like, a lot of people, unless you're into it, probably wouldn't know, like, no, this wood, I like the feel of it. I like the smell of it. I like the sealant we basically used, which was a natural sealant, and I had to learn about linseed oils and other kind of oils and things you could refresh, and using this one has some citrus in it so that you can keep reapplying it, and I've only ever had to apply it once, but also learning about wood and how it ages, right? So you put a sealant on a wood, but then as it's exposed to UV, and then you can only get that look from this, and then learning about like wood and spalting, where it's like, oh, you basically grow mold underground to give it that cool look. Like, wait, so we're basically ruining it to make it cooler? That's bizarre. And so after doing all of that, that basically led me towards, I like certain things. I like natural tones and colors, greens and browns and oranges and that kind of stuff. And that's how we kind of have our brand that is more nature-like. And just learning the intricacies between bees and frogs and fish and bugs and flowers and rain and sun and all of that just in life led all that filled into Aquarium Co-op's experience. And we did lots of fun tests like grind up bee grubs and pollen and other things and fed them to fish, and it was incredibly messy, but man, was it healthy for those fish, and only made sense if you owned hundreds and hundreds of beehives, and no other way would it make sense. But had a lot of good things that it'll never get published, never really did anything with it, just let's see. It was purely, let's see what this does, let's try it. You're trying that? Ooh, it's working really good, give me some of that, I'll try that. And then that relationship kind of became me and Dean, where, hey, you're doing a thing, give me some of that. I'm doing this. You like that? Great. And then the relationship kind of became me and Aquarium Co-op, where, hey, I'm doing a thing. You like that thing? Let's make this thing for everybody. And that's what we do. So now that has gone all the way to like, yeah, the nano feed will be here when it's out. And, we worked on the sponge filter. We worked on these things. So if you like that thing, I like that thing. Should we make this thing? Let's make this thing. And then we'll see if other people like this thing. And that's how we get thousands of reviews and seemingly a following. So, yeah. We're all just sharing stuff, whether it's information or a product or money. Really, it's all the same thing. trying to find people you want to hang out with and are interested in the thing you're interested in. And hopefully you'll get results that you're having fun with. If you stop having fun with aquarium, stop doing it. If you're having tons of fun, do more of it. And yeah. So please buy all of our stuff. We'll try to do more things. We'll keep it in green. We'll keep it natural. We'll keep it live. And I won't see you next Sunday, unfortunately, but there will be videos coming out. And I'm going to try to hang out more on the forum. So if you're on the fence, give it a try. Check in once a night. See if you can get yourself a new little hobby. And yeah, I guess the dogs want me to come in. It's raining pretty good. The lights are flickering. And it is hot. So I'm going to get out of here. We'll see you later. Sign up for text notifications if you want to be notified when a video, new product, or a live stream happens. That way you won't miss out. And yeah, thanks everybody. We'll see you soon. Have a good time. Buy yourself some rosy barbs. Later.